Hello and welcome to my review of the Imperial Knights Armiger Helverins. They come in a pack of two for £45, so in a way you could say that they're £22.50 each combined. They consist of quite a few sprues, but obviously, you know, those 4 or 5 sprues are duplicated because you get two in the pack. If you've had the War Glaives, you know just how lovely this kit is. They're an absolute joy to build. You can build them relatively quickly, cleaning the mold lines off and things, and you can build them and spray them and paint them, you know, with ease compared to like an Imperial Knight, where it might be more of a sub-assembly kind of process. I've seen a lot of people not put the carapace on these, or the shoulder pauldrons, or even the weapons, and then paint them before they attach those, which is fine, whatever works best for you. But they're a lovely kit. I like how with a subtle change you can have either the right leg forward or the left leg forward. You can position that torso any which way you want, tilt it. The arms you can position. I've got this one kind of cocking his autocannon, and this one just aiming down the barrel in a way. I've equipped them both with the heavy stubbers, but as you know, these pop off quite easily. You could magnetise it if you really want, but they fit in quite tightly, quite snugly, and that's just to give them extra dakka, as it were, even more bullets to, you know, throw at the enemy. But they're lovely kits. Not, you know, you can pose them in such a lovely way too. That's what they needed. That's what Imperial Knights needed. They needed a smaller kind of version that would support them and capture objectives, and that are very quick, 14-inch movement speed. We'll go into the rules in a little bit, but these are the poses I've gone for. So this one sort of aiming down that barrel with a cocked autocannon upwards. I haven't really seen any like that. And then this one just kind of striding to the left, but letting rip with both cannons, both barrels, emptying into whatever. They're a decent range as well, 60 inches. I mean, obviously effective range of 74 inches. So these are fast moving, long range support Imperial Knights that have a good toughness, that have a decent number of wounds, and have a bloody good save too. Anyway, so the models, the kits, lovely. I can't recommend them enough. If you're on the fence, go out and get them. If you prefer the thermal spear and the Reaper chain cleaver, now that the Reaper chain cleaver has a sweep profile as well as just a normal strike profile, which helps it more in hordes, then either kit is brilliant. But if you want something that will support your Imperial Knights more in combat, so even though they're super heavy walkers anyway, then the War Glaives might be a better option. There are some subtle differences between them both, and I will go through them in a little bit of a comparison in a moment. But firstly, let's do the size comparison. So let's just have this one there. This is the new Imperial Knight Castellan, which is the biggest of the knights now. So as you can see there, press if I show there, the Armiger is probably chest height, I want to say, just above hip height. So that's a comparison. And then next to the Imperial Knight, you can see him there. Definitely probably head height almost, where the Carapace meets. So the smallest of the knights, comparing it to like a Space Marine could probably jump up on one maybe and cause it some damage, and a Primaris definitely could, so long as they were out of range of those long autocannons. Contemptor Dreadnought fares quite well actually with the size comparison next to one of these things, more than half the height of one of the Helverins. So there you go, that's the size comparison. Hopefully that helps. Let me just do a short comparison with the War Glaives. So this is your typical War Glaive, and I'll just show you some differences. So there are subtle differences. The first one is with the feet armour. The feet armour for the Helverins has got like a triangle kind of pike pattern to it, whereas the War Glaive has got like a spear pattern to it. The same goes for the thigh armour too. Again, it's got a skull there, if you can see that. and the Helverin has got a triangle point to it. The Carapace itself, there isn't really any difference for this top bit or the exhausts. However, the shoulder pauldrons, there is a difference here with the Mechanicum kind of cutouts there right at the top, and again with this spear and skull design, whereas the Helverins have got these smooth, more Imperial Knight kind of looking. They probably work better the other way around, if that makes sense, having these smooth like triangle patterns on the Warglaive and having these kind of chipped cog symbols and things on the Helverin. That's the way I would have them, you know, if I'd have thought a little bit more ahead. But everything else is pretty much the same, obviously except for the thermal lances and the chain cleavers and things. So there's the main differences between the two sets, as it were. Obviously with the Helverins you get 2 Armiger Autocannons. Okay, so this is my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules for the Armiger Helverins. You'll find them in your brand new Imperial Knight Codex, the Warhammer 40,000 8th edition Codex. They're a Lord of War choice, power points cost of a 9, the same as the Armiger Warglaives, but the Helverins are 170 points per model, with their autocannons costing 3. The heavy stubbers do cost 4 points each though, and if you want a melter gun then you're going to have to pay 17 points. So technically these two here are 174 points each, which isn't too bad for what you get. The unit contains 1 Armiger Helverin, so you can just have 1 on its own. It can include 1 additional Armiger Helverin with a power level of +9, or 2 additional Armiger Helverins, of course, with a power level of +18. Each Armiger Helverin is equipped with 2 Armature Autocannons and a heavy stubber as standard. All the other Imperial Knights in the Codex, they are a unit which its remaining wounds affects its other characteristics, so they normally have 12 wounds. So if they've got between 7 and 12, their movement speed is 14 inches, weapon skill 3+, and ballistic skill 3+. That's fantastic, very fast movement speed as well. Between 4 and 6 wounds, their movement drops to 10 inches, and skill drops to 4+, and ballistic skill 4+. When they're only down to 1 to 3 wounds, they only get a movement speed of 7 inches and a weapon skill 5+, and ballistic skill 5+. So it's great to see their weapon skill and ballistic skill at 3+ apiece. Both the Castellan and the Valiant, for some reason, their weapon skill is 4+ instead of 3+, which is what it is on normal Imperial Knights. A shock, maybe they were in Errants and Paladins and they were great in close combat, great in long range weaponry. Maybe they were great as Armature Warglaives with weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+s, and then they progressed to have Knights themselves, and then all of a sudden they progressed to Castellan and Valiants, and they just, you know, weren't very good in close combat anymore. Anyway, Games Workshop obviously have the reasons of having those 2 big walkers as worse weapon skill than these Armigers. Anyway, the rest of its stat line then, they're strength 6, toughness 7, 12 wounds, attacks 4, leadership 8, and save of 3+. Exactly the same stat line as the Warglaive. Their weaponry then. They're armed with 2 Armature Autocannons. What's an Armature Autocannon? Well, it's a ranged 60-inch weapon, so you've already got an effective range there of 74 inches. The type is heavy 2D3, so they've got 2 of them. So essentially you're getting heavy 4D3. Statistically, you're going to get about 8 shots of strength 7, AP -1, damage 3. Damage 3 is the real stinger in all this. Brilliant. AP might not be good, but the damage is 3. Ignore the penalty to hit rolls for moving and firing this heavy weapon. Brilliant. That completely negates the need for the super heavy walker rule. These guys and girls can just run 14 inches and fire their 2D3, well 4D3 shots at things 60 inches away. Excellent fire support. Heavy stubbers are heavy stubbers, they're 36-inch range, heavy 3, strength 4, damage 1, no AP. They just give them a little bit more DACA. So now potentially you have a possibility of getting 15 shots out of each of these, which is pretty horrific really. You can of course change the heavy stubbers for melter guns, Not really sure whether that's worth it. They're short range. You want to keep these things away from combat, running around the battlefield, popping out those essentially 12 shots. War gear options. Any model may replace its heavy stubber with a melter gun, like I've just mentioned. Abilities. Iron Shield. Just like all the Imperial Knights, these little armigers get their Iron Shields. They're 5+ invulnerable saves. Explodes. Each time a model in the unit is reduced to 0 wounds, you roll a dice before removing it from the battlefield, and on a 6 it explodes, and each unit within 6 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds. That changes slightly from a normal Imperial Knight, where it's 2d6 and it's d6 mortal wounds. So you're pretty much getting half the damage if you manage to blow one of these things up. Vehicle Squadron. The first time this unit is set up, all of its models must be placed within 6 inches of each other. From that point onwards, each operates independently and is treated as a separate unit. That's pretty limiting in a way, because if you've got 2 or 3 of them, you've got to place them all within 6 inches of each other. However, obviously after that, they can just stroll about the 14 inches. The keywords: Imperium, Imperial Knights, Questor Allegiance, Household, Vehicle, Armiger Class and Armiger Helverin. They're all the rules for the Armiger Helverins. How do they compare to the War Glaives? This isn't a versus video by any means, but why would you pick one over the other? Well, there's nothing stopping you from picking one of each and having both of them as, support roles in an Imperial Knights army. One to pick up lightly armoured vehicles and light infantry from afar, that being the Helverin. The other one to support an Imperial Knight in combat and tank busting and armour, and that would be the Warglaive with its 30-inch thermal spear. It's great now that the Warglaive is even better than it used to be with the sweep strike, which is a strength 6 weapon, and you get 2 hit rolls for each attack, which gives it 8 attacks, which is pretty decent. Although the AP suffers a little bit from that, it's good against some horde or armies, or units where there's 10 models or so. It's nice that these Warglaives now have that ability to attack them. It would have been nice to have some kind of feat or kick kind of ability maybe as a little attack, but I think that's sort of reflected in the 4 attacks anyway. Yeah, it depends on the role, whether you want to keep these Helverins away and go for a completely Dakar kind of Imperial Knight army, or you want to capture objective points more and get stuck in with the Warglaives with their thermal spears and their Reaper chain cleavers, which at the end of the day are strength 12 weapons with an AP of -3 and a damage of 3. It really depends on the battlefield which one will suit your needs. But what I will say is these Helverins have that potential of pumping out an awful lot of shots with those Armature Autocannons. What do you guys think of these Armature Helverins? Do you think they're cool models? Do you think the differences in the models are worth it? Have you bought a pack? What do you think? Put all of your comments and things down below as always. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor protects.